The old station wagon sputtered. It coughed its last breath on the outskirts of Black Hollow. 5 pairs of eyes, each reflecting a different shade of fear and frustration, stared out at the weathered sign. Black Hollow. Population unknown. John, the driver, a man hardened by years of solitude, slammed his hands against the steering wheel. "Damn it," he swore. Sarah, a young runaway seeking solace, clutched her worn backpack tighter. David and Emily, a couple on the brink of divorce, exchanged weary glances. The last passenger, a grizzled old man named Henry, simply muttered, "We shouldn't be here." The fog, thick and white, had descended upon them miles back. It clung to the road, swallowing the world beyond their headlights. Black Hollow, barely visible through the swirling mist, promised nothing but mystery. John, ever the pragmatist, pointed out the obvious. "No way we're driving through that fog. We stay here until it clears." His words hung in the air, a stark admission that they were trapped. For how long, no one dared to ask. The Black Hollow stood draped in an unsettling silence. Buildings weathered and grey lined the deserted street. The windows, dark and vacant, stared back like the eyes of the dead. A shiver ran down Sarah's spine. She pulled her jacket tighter, seeking comfort against the growing chill. The town felt abandoned, forgotten, a ghost town swallowed by the fog and time. David coughed, breaking the silence. "Anyone live here?" His voice echoed strangely in the stillness. Emily, ever practical, pointed to a faded sign above a boarded-up storefront. "General store," she read. "Maybe we can find someone there." Hope, fragile and fleeting, flickered in their eyes. The silence, however, remained unbroken. It pressed in on them, suffocating, heavy. Even John, a man not easily unnerved, felt a tremor of unease. Night fell. The fog, now a dense, impenetrable wall, pressed against the windows of the general store. They had found canned goods and bottled water, enough to sustain them for a while. But the silence of Black Hollow had been replaced by something far more unnerving. Whispers. Faint at first, carried on the chill night air. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with fear. The others, huddled around a flickering lantern, exchanged uneasy glances. They had all heard it, whispers like the rustling of leaves seeming to come from the fog itself. Henry, his gaze distant, spoke in a low voice. "The fog, it carries voices." He looked at them, his face grave. The voices of the dead. As the night deepened, the whispers grew louder. They swirled around the building, pronouncements of forgotten sins and mournful cries. Then, clear as day, a voice cut through the others. "Sarah." Sarah gasped. It was her name, spoken with a chilling familiarity. Her blood ran cold. Morning arrived, but the fog remained. It clung to Black Hollow, a suffocating shroud. The whispers had ceased with the dawn, leaving behind a silence thick with dread. And Sarah was gone.
"Sarah!"
John's voice echoed in the empty store. They searched, their calls swallowed by the thick silence. There was no sign of her, no indication of where she might have gone. Fear, cold and sharp, cut through the group.
"You said the fog, the voices."
David, his face pale, turned to Henry. He couldn't finish the sentence.
"The fog takes what it wants. It feeds on our fears, our regrets."
Henry, his eyes filled with a terrible knowledge, simply nodded. His words hung in the air, a chilling confirmation of their worst fears. Sarah wasn't just gone, she was taken. The old library, its shelves sagging under the weight of forgotten stories, offered a sanctuary from the oppressive fog. Or so they hoped. There, amongst dusty tomes and yellowed maps, they sought answers. Answers to the mystery of Black Hollow and the fate of its missing residents, and most importantly, answers about the fog.
"Look here, this book."
It was in a leather-bound volume, its pages brittle with age, that they found the truth. The history of Black Hollow, penned in a spidery hand, spoke of a pact made by the town's founders with an entity that resided within the fog, an entity that demanded a terrible price for its protection. The pact, the book claimed, had been broken. And now the entity was collecting its due. The fog, once a shield, had become a prison, a hunting ground where the entity preyed upon the fears and regrets of the living.